Are you ready for some inconvenient truths? Due to the sensitive nature of this video, it has of course been demonetized. I do, however, not allow that to stop me or censor me, and I just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody who supports me through Patreon and other means for allowing me to do such a thing. This is an official Chinese police report, and you're going to find out in this video why it is so damning. A video recently went viral on the Chinese internet. Now, a woman was severely beaten by her husband, and it spread around like wildfire. I'll explain to you why this video even exists in the first place. You see, these days it's quite common for people who have pets or children at home to install security cameras in the house. You know, these kind of internet connected cameras where you can just check in from your office and make sure everything's okay. Usually in China they use the Xiaomi brand. It's a Xiaoyi, it's called little ant cameras. I had those when I was in China. It's similar to Ring cameras and that sort of thing if you're in the West. So they set them up, and of course it records whenever there's motion and that sort of thing. Now, after this particularly savage beating by her husband, she shared the footage from the camera that she'd saved to some of her friends in a WeChat group. From there, one of her friends shared it out on Weibo, and it went out into the public, and it drew heavy criticism and condemnation from the netizens in China, which is a good thing. Now, the worst part about all this is not the public reaction to this, but the official reaction to this. Now, I'm not going to show you the video, but I will show you a few stills from specific parts of the video which are important. I just think it's a rather disturbing video. I'm very much against domestic violence. It's terrible and upsetting to see, so I don't want it to be in the video. You can find it yourself. It's fairly easy to find if you're looking for it. Now, the video starts out with a man beating the woman in the head with their very young child. I'd say probably 2 years old, thereabouts. You know, I have a daughter that age, so it looks about 2 years old, standing there watching this. And if you can understand Chinese and what's being said, it's heartbreaking because the child is crying out for her mother. And of course the mother's trying to tell the child it'll be okay. She tries to defend the child. It's awful. Well, anyway, the beating is very savage. Keeps going on for a long time. Child is crying for its mother, etc., etc. And then this part is really disturbing as well, as the mother-in-law, this guy's mother, because that's how it works. They live with you in the house. The grandma comes in, just stands there, doesn't say a word, doesn't do anything, watches the savage beating, finally takes the child and walks away with the child and allows the beating to continue. But it gets worse. The guy even gets her and is so violent with her that he shoves her down into the couch and in fact splits the couch open, and she's down on the floor, and it looks like he's choking her down there for a very long time. Now, from my experience, this kind of assault can be lethal. It was a very vicious assault. It was prolonged. The way that he manhandled her, beat her around the head so many times, got her down on the floor and looked like was choking her, etc., etc. This could have led to the death of this woman. She's very lucky to be alive. The video goes viral. Only after it goes viral do the cops come and intervene. What do? Well, they take both of them down for questioning. Now, this is quite common. Domestic abuse is seen as a private and personal matter in China, and usually the law doesn't even get involved. All right? I've experienced this myself firsthand when I've tried to stop fights and called the police, and they're just like, nope. And we could talk about that later. But the police very rarely get involved in domestic disputes. Even if someone's quite badly beaten, they won't get involved. Unless, of course, they have to. And in this case, there was so much uproar, and it went viral, and everybody was talking about it that they had to get involved. So they take them both down to the police station. They give the guy 5 days detention. Okay, so he has to stay at the police station for 5 days. They did not press any criminal charges whatsoever against him. Then they gave the woman re-education. I mean, okay, here's the part that really pisses me off the most, is they blame the victim. If you read the police report in Chinese and then, you know, translate it into basic English, it says that the reason this fight occurred was they were having a squabble over domestic chores, and then the woman was too extreme in her arguing, right? So she escalated it. She was too extreme, which led to the assault. If you read the actual police report, that's what they're saying, that it's the woman's fault. It was because she reacted too extreme to the argument. And that's why he attacked her. That's the reason. Her fault, right? And then they still gave her a re-education. I mean, this is the part that really, really frustrates me, is that they took this victim, blamed her for causing this, and then still had to punish her by giving her a proper education on what to do and, you know, this, you shouldn't behave this way and that type of thing. It's disgusting. Now, this may seem incredibly shocking from anyone who's grown up in a Western democracy or in most countries around the world, because domestic abuse is a very serious offense. Usually, if somebody reports domestic abuse, the police are called, an investigation is had, people go to trial, people go to jail. There's all sorts of things that can result from this. You can lose custody of your children, all this kind of thing. It's a very, very serious offense. But in China, it's a slap on the wrist, 5 days in detention, and, you know, oh, well, you know, just don't do it again type thing. And yeah, we're going to tell the wife that it's her fault for acting so extreme, and we'll give her a special education too. Now, in most cases, that would be it. Things would continue, and of course, he'd be free to attack her again, and this has happened. Unfortunately, there are plenty of cases which I can list here where this has ended up in something terrible, like the death of a wife. I mean, there was a live streamer that was murdered by her husband, what was it, only last year or so in China, while she was live streaming. You know, this kind of thing happens. Domestic abuse is no joke. In fact, statistics from a couple of years ago say that 1 in 4 women in China experience physical domestic abuse from their spouses. 1 in 4. That's an incredible statistic. That means you see 4 women walking down the road, 1 of them would have experienced physical abuse. It is actually very common. In fact, it's so common that, you know, I myself have been in relationships in China where my girlfriend has been physically abusive towards me. Obviously not my current wife, but I had a couple of girlfriends that would punch me all the time, and maybe in a playful manner, but it was really, sometimes it would get out of hand. They would be very physical, and it's kind of common. In fact, it's so common, I had to help a subscriber a year ago who actually had a situation where his Chinese wife, who is now living with him in England, was beating him up and like really actually causing injuries. And I had to give him advice, and he eventually had to call the police, and the police arrested her, and there was a whole domestic violence case opened up against her, and they found out that she had been abusing him and she was destroying and damaging his property and all sorts of weird things like that. This kind of physical domestic abuse thing is not uncommon, is what I'm saying. I can't speak for everybody, but I myself have experienced it. I've seen it with my own eyes. And the statistics at least prove that 1 in 4 women in China are subject to some form of physical domestic abuse. It's awful. Now, usually that would be the end of it. The two would go down to the police station. They would negotiate some or other, you know, peace treaty between the two, give them both a talking to, and they'd go home. Because this was such a viral video that got shared millions and millions and millions of times around China, it didn't stop there. The guy was a deputy director of a state-owned company. Now that's big in China. That means you're government. A state-owned company, you're the deputy director, you're part of the government. And so he usually would have been able to quash this kind of thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure he did quash it a lot because his the repercussions were not very severe for the guy. But because of all the uproar, he lost his job. And in fact, the company itself went to give the wife counseling, you know, obviously to save face. Because why else would the company be involved in a domestic violence act like this? Now, never mind the fact that the police report stated that both parties had learned their lesson. It's infuriating. But because this guy is so high up in the Communist Party, he is a Communist Party member. And of course, if you're going to be the deputy director of a state-owned company, you have to be very high up in the Communist Party. He got a severe warning from the Communist Party of China. Now, I suppose the severe warning went something along the lines of, next time, make sure the camera isn't on. Because what the hell? This man is despicable. He almost killed his wife, and of course, according to the wife, this has been going on forever. Even when she was pregnant, he was physically abusive with her. This has been going on for a long time. This is a terrible man. This is a domestic abuser. It's an awful, awful man. And yet, his repercussions are 5 days in jail. He lost his job, which he would not have if this had not gone viral. And he got a severe warning from the Communist Party of China. So, of course, being a part of the Communist Party of China is why I guess he didn't get any real severe punishment, because he got no criminal record, no criminal charges, and he's free to carry on with his life. And I presume just he'll find another way into another job through his government connections. And this really highlights how bad the domestic violence laws, or I should say how non-existent they are in China. And this once again shows you that the people of China are the ones that suffer. Not the CCP, not the Communist Party of China. No, they get to rule the roost with their laws that nobody has a say in. They get to treat domestic violence as if it's a non-issue and very poorly defend the rights of women. And the women suffer. And the outcry that you see on the internet from the Chinese people themselves shows you how much they deserve a better governance and they deserve a better system. So next time anyone tells you that in China they have equal rights for the different sexes, for male and female, tell them to take a hike or take a long walk off a short plank. Because you know what? China has a massive domestic abuse problem. It's awful. Probably one of the worst countries in the world. Anyway, guys, unlike abusive, disgusting spouses, and unlike the Chinese Communist Party, stay awesome. Hey guys, thank you for reaching the end of the video. I just want to once again say how much your support really means to me, and the fact that I can even cover these controversial topics, because whenever I try, YouTube shits all over me and, of course, cancels all monetization. So it's kind of like an incentive for me not to make these, but I'm not going to allow that to happen. I will continue to cover these topics, and it's all because of you. And whether that means you're watching, subscribing, sharing, supporting me on Patreon, doesn't matter. Anything that you do really helps keep these videos alive. So thank you so much.